What does Zyn give you? Not just smoke-free nicotine satisfaction, but real freedom. Freedom to do what you love and choose your rewards. With Zyn Rewards, you can redeem points for premium tech, outdoor gear, and gift cards to your favorite retailers. Find your Zyn and keep finding rewards that fit your lifestyle at zyn.com/rewards. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Now's a good time to remember where tequila's story truly began. In 1795, Cuervo invented tequila.
Cuervo.
What are you doing here?
Cuervo. Anytime someone says Cuervo, I show up.
Well, I do know that to be true, but even during ad reads, like...
Cuervo.
I think you could lay out, especially for one of our great partners.
Sweet, delicious Cuervo.
Since then, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots. The same family, the same land, the same passion.
Cuervo.
So, enjoy the tequila that started it all. Cuervo.
Cuervo.
The tequila that invented tequila. Proximo. Cuervo.com. Please drink responsibly.
Cuervo. When you've been around people for a long time, there can be in the friendships a little bit of staleness that sets in. You start taking each other for granted some. So what I heard this morning, Cody, when I came in here, and just a blabbering, yammering, excitedly sharing with a friend, Billy Gill, talking about, with a new audience in Zaslow, Fast and the Furious. I have not seen Billy that excited about anything. A mature adult father. I can't remember the last time I saw him as excited as he was just explaining the franchise to Zaslow.
I feel like we shared a moment.
Yeah, we bonded this morning. It started over Jurassic Park, really, if we're going to talk about it. And then it was just action movies, and then it was Fast and Furious.
But you just were rattling through them. Zaslow's only seen 2 of them, and you were just so happy.
The most recent 2.
But he was so happy to take you through the other 47 of them one by one.
And he was careful not to give spoilers.
Yeah, I didn't give him spoilers, but I gave him points of interest that might have him want to see some of these movies, but not exactly what happened, how it happened. We also bonded over, and this is probably not a very popular opinion in the Fast franchise. It might be. We bonded over how great Hobbs and Shaw was, which some people see as kind of like an appendage, not really part of like the Fast saga, but part of the Fast universe, if you will. Incredible movie.
I think it's part of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Now,
just Rock and Statham, they're so good in it. They're funny.
Oh my God, great chemistry, the two of them together. It made you wonder, do we really need Vin Diesel? And then, of course, the next one comes out, and you're like, we do need Vin Diesel.
I was very entertained with Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
And then you got all the Polynesian family that helps in the... Roman Reigns was in it.
I'm glad you brought that up, Zaz, because in 2020, the year of our Lord, we were down here. The Super Bowl was in town right before COVID, and the world was shut down. And we went out to media night at Marlins Park at the time. It was called Marlins Park. It's Lone Depot Park.
They didn't have a sponsor yet, Dan.
Yeah, no. Now it's Lone Depot Park. For those of you who are unaware, it used to be called Marlins Park, and that's where opening night was, where all the teams are out there. Then you have the media out there, and they're trying to get interviews. Some people are being funny guys, like Cooper Manning was out there. I thought he was Pauly Shore that night. I was like, what is Pauly Shore doing out here? It was Cooper Manning. But one of the people that was out there on behalf of Fox was Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, I guess they had just signed on with Fox, so Roman Reigns was going around, and I think Baron Corbin was the other one, and they were going around, and they were interviewing players, and they were interviewing people on behalf of Fox. I assume it was a Fox Super Bowl. And I saw Roman Reigns, and he was working, so he wasn't really doing interviews. But he walked by, and I said to him, I go, Roman Reigns, when's Hobbs and Shaw 2 going to come out? And I put a microphone in his face, and he said, that wasn't me, that's the other guy. And I was like, did Roman Reigns forget he was in Hobbs and Shaw? Like, I don't think you're The Rock, but I know you were in Hobbs and Shaw. But he wasn't going to give me the answers.
Did he know what he was filming for?
That's what I'm wondering, if he even knew he was in the movie, which is a shame.
Maybe he just thought he was living his life.
It was, I don't know. I guess that's his life, right? Some people are there, spoiler alert. And then there's, friends of theirs, family members of theirs on the back of Jeeps holding helicopters by chains. Like, maybe that's just what happens. Maybe sometimes you just get into turf wars with, enemies from abroad. Who knows? But it was a movie, Roman. I don't know if he's aware.
Dan, in the most recent one, Ludacris was in space.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think that was I think there's one after that. I think there was Part 10, Fast X. So it was Fast 10. part 1. Part 2 is upcoming. That's the final one for now.
Your enthusiasm about this.
Tokyo Drift, Zaz, while not having most of the cast, the most instrumental in tying it all together.
Just start the show.
This is the Dan Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Zaslow very excitedly just said to me, what's more absurd, Ludacris in space or Steve Buscemi in Armageddon in space?
Absurd was your adjective. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I think you might have said, what's more ludicrous, did you not? Regardless.
No, that's the actor's name.
Oh, okay, thank you. That was my confusion.
LUDA.
I want to know why it is Greg Cote just waved at Billy Gill with the back of his hand. Why is it that you just dismissed him when he mentioned The Rock and Jason Statham?
Well, the cult of cinema fascination is just way over my head, and I admit that. I'm not an atheist when it comes to movies. I'm an agnostic, though. I don't get it. Like sometimes when Christopher and Michael, my younger son, are together, they're just trading lines from movies, and it's like a language I don't understand. And where, Roman Neal or whatever the actor's name was, I've never heard of that.
No, you got it right,
Yeah.
Roman Neal. Yeah, you got it.
Neal.
The wrestler Roman
Yeah,
Neal.
you remember. I was surprised you remember, but you did.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, only because you just said it.
Yeah.
But I don't know movies, and so when people are that enthusiastic
Right.
about talking movies, it's just,
Well,
I'm amused by
Just
it.
try 8 to 10 of them, Greg. You'll love them.
What's your wheelhouse? Like, you could do that about Wizard of Oz. Get excited. Tell us about it.
No, so he dismissed you guys with the back of the hand, but I found that your father is more and more unreasonable as he ages about just the collection of any new information. So I think movies are a very common language among friends, but I will ask at Le Batard Show, was Hobbs and Shaw indeed a great flick at Le Batard Show? I believe that's going to be a controversial opinion from the Shadow Show. But your father, right before that, Chris, he was looking at his computer, and he had just come out of course, the Greg Cote Family Olympics. That part's not surprising at all. It's always on his computer. Soon, in a new episode on the Greg Cote Show featuring Greg Cote, you will get the Greg Cote Family Olympics, 70 years old against 7 years old. It's the only thing of its kind in its lane, grandfather against granddaughter.
It's out now. That episode had just dropped.
All right. So what happened was your dad's looking at his computer, and O'Neill Cruz of the Pittsburgh Pirates just has a giant arm, and the defense in baseball is better than it's ever been. And they recorded a throw from the outfield from him at 105.2 miles per hour. And Greg Cote points at his computer and yells, "Too much information. Didn't want the information."
It's a perfect example of TMI in sports statistics now. And then the second paragraph was the second fastest recording throw from the outfield, resulting in a putout since 2015 when StatCast began keeping track of this stuff. Why are they keeping track of it? It's so ridiculous. Am I supposed to wonder, oh, wow, I wonder who had a harder throw? And is that person going to put that on their resume? On the tombstone, hardest throw from the outfield, resulting in a putout in MLB history. I just don't see that that's interesting, worth anything.
A human being threw a baseball 105 miles an hour.
Okay, put him on the mound.
This is coming from a guy who tracks unique hits in PFPI.
Well, that's a family. It's a family affair. I do. UH.
I don't think that people quite.
Raccoon skin. That's a nickname for a unique hit because Ruth's Racoons, God rest her soul, my mother, before she died, she led the league in unique hits every season and still holds the record that Graceland almost beat the year before last.
Really?
Yeah.
How close did she get?
The record, I believe, is 19 in a season, and I think Graceland had 17. But, yeah, so I keep track of unique hits, but that's a family affair. That's nothing published nationwide. Nobody would care about that in Idaho, just like nobody cares about O'Neill Cruz's 105
I do
mile
care,
throw.
though. I found that interesting.
Why?
Both of your glasses are fogging
I
up
know,
now.
because I'm talking...
Is it the coffee?
It could be. The coffee's very hot, a little bit undersweetened.
Okay, so you're hot taking here. You don't want any more information, but so you don't find it interesting that a throw from the outfield came in at 105 miles an hour?
Not in the least.
But, Dad, this is not OPS. This is a pretty simple, straightforward, hardest person to throw from the outfield.
Okay, but why is that relevant?
Because that means they can throw out runners at a higher rate than other guys would be able to, because they can throw the ball 105 miles per hour.
I get it. I appreciate the condescending tone of voice there. Obviously, that's true if you have that magical nexus of speed and accuracy. If he's a foot and a half off on the throw, people are still saying, wow, what a fast throw.
He wasn't.
I know.
But if he was...
Right.
Yeah, but, they say you're a 5-tool player, right? And one of the tools happens to be throwing.
I will say that on a baseball field, there are two things that get my attention the most. It is somebody hitting a ball very far. It's not speed on the bases. It is somebody having a giant arm. I remember players forever. Dave Parker just died. What do I remember? Giant arm from the outfield.
Remember that Yoenis Cespedes throw from the corner in L.A.? It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen on a baseball field.
I've told you guys this story before. Ricky Williams, obviously a great athlete, played minor league baseball, and I was just playing softball with him one time, and he was in the outfield, and I was on third base, and he just threw a ball to home plate.
I threw out Derek Lee one time, softball game.
Really? What position?
I was second.
Wow.
Threw his ass out.
Who's your double play combo?
Mike Lowell.
Wow.
How fast was your throw? About 60?
Fast enough. Don't run on me, dog.
Okay.
The softball was whistling. I could hear a softball whistling as it went past me on third base because of how hard it had been thrown. I cannot imagine an outfielder throwing a baseball 105 miles an hour. Having seen throws from the warning track from Bo Jackson and Vladimir Guerrero, loving Jesse Barfield, I associate that name with an arm. One of the things that I love in baseball is a giant arm. And I don't understand why it is that you would just... I understand why you wouldn't want generally more information, but that information is not uninteresting, I don't think.
I just think it's extraneous and irrelevant, really, in the big picture, in the broad view of sports and stats and athletes.
You guys go Chooch or Cannon for a strong arm?
Oh, you got to go Cannon, right?
Rocket. I go Chooch.
Put it on the poll, Juju at Lebatard show. Stronger arm, Cannon, Rocket, or Chooch?
It's got to be generational, right?
I don't know.
When Ricky Williams' softball was whistling, was it whistling a tune, or was it just like the sound of wind?
I've got it, Andy Griffith.
No, it was Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Oh, that's impressive. See?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Okay.
Okay, now you have my attention.
Okay, I'm great.
Now that's a stat. How old was Ruth when she set the record, just out of curiosity?
She was well into her 80s at that point.
So the record for unique hits is by an 80-year-old and a child.
Yes,
unique
that's right.
hit is when you're the only one to get it.
No, I know. It makes me wonder kind of how in tune the pickers are when they make these unique hits and whether it's actually a skill or it's just people who don't know what they're doing.
Well, my mother's technique was to pick the city that she would prefer to live in.
Okay, so she knew that.
Would I rather live in Boston or Atlanta? That type thing.
So the Marlins, as soon as Billy starts going to the games, they start losing. The Marlins were beating very good teams. Milwaukee is a very good team, and Milwaukee came in here and won a couple of games against the Marlins. But I wanted to ask you guys, because I don't know how you feel about nostalgia. Baseball's always been great at trafficking in it. Was anyone moved by Jim Leland Day at the ballpark celebrating one of the two old managers that are beloved around here because they were ancient a million years ago when they won the championship and are even more ancient now? Jim Leland comes to the ballpark like Jack McKeon to be celebrated, and it had to make him a little bit sad to see what baseball in South Florida is.
There's no way. There's no way when he was, shaking hands behind home plate, putting on the jacket, that he didn't say to himself, wow, this is just a shit crowd.
Right? He was there for 1998.
And he should.
He was there for 1998 when he would be in the clubhouse, and he's like, they got me a truck driver, center field. He's a truck driver. They lost like 115 games, but he wasn't expecting to come back to Jim Leland Day and have nothing there.
Right.
I don't know how much he was here with the Tigers. I don't imagine he was here very much. Like maybe he knows how bad it is, but I'm guessing Jim Leland returned to Jim Leland Day hoping that there would be a lot of people there to celebrate, a world championship.
Does it make it any better that I got back from Key Largo around noon, right before game time, and I, for the first time since the first week of the season, put on the game because I wanted to watch the ceremony.
Wow.
So that's better than nothing. I put it on.
It is.
I was like, let me see this. Jim Leland Day, I want to watch that.
And
I was made sad by the crowd.
Oh.
It's the bare minimum effort that you gave where it's like, I will sniff this for a moment on television because it's Jim Leland Day.
I have an indelicate question, but is there like financial compensation for Jim Leland Day? Like, is there a check involved?
They wet his whistle a little bit?
I'm wondering, congratulations, you made it to the Marlins Legends Hall of Fame.
That's expenses.
Here's an amount of money. Or you're coming down for a personal... I don't know how these things work, but if you have a Jim Leland Day and he's coming down for obligations, is there a fee that he receives for doing it?
I'm going to guess just a reimbursement of expenses. Like, he's got to invoice them. And he'll be reimbursed on whatever it is that it costs. For the hotel, I'm guessing the flight they handle.
Listen, we're talking about the Marlins. Let's not sugarcoat this. They cover his flight, economy. They give him a $50 per day per diem and put him up at a Motel 6.
Okay, you're going to make
$50
a Motel
6.
Seems unnecessary.
I'm going to comfort in.
Leland's out front at the Motel 6 in a lawn chair, chain smoking, while waiting for an Uber that he can't sign off.
He's sitting next to the pool with no water in it.
Yes,
At a Best Western.
Right.
All right, so just to be clear, you guys have at a Motel 6 by the pool, you've got Jim Leland
with no water in it.
Wait, with one of those, tins that is made of aluminum.
Right.
That is baking his face so that he can get the proper red on his face. I will tell you that the funniest thing like that I've ever seen was in the Radisson parking lot in Bristol, Connecticut. This will only be funny to the 5 people who remember him, but Dave Soup Campbell being in a chair with one of those things sunning his face is how I imagine Jim Leland outside of a Motel 6.
Yeah, there was a shuffleboard court out front, but it was weed covered. You couldn't even use it. It was a sad hotel, but this is the Marlins. Bruce Sherman, he plays at Lone Depot Park. He should take out a loan and actually start paying for players. I know they had an 8-game. Here's the sad thing that we've talked about, okay? Jeremy's mad at all this.
Go on.
They just had an 8-game winning streak, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, they've done something. They have shown that their young players are rising. They have potential as a team. They're going to come home, and the crowds are going to be there. Well, their first home game after an 8-game winning streak, they drew 7,000 people. Okay, Sunday, because of Jim Leland and fireworks or whatever it was, I think they inched over 10,000. The fans just aren't buying what they're selling.
Maybe that's because of us.
4th of July was a pretty good crowd. It was a good environment. It was a good loss. I went on 4th of July. Very good loss. Competitive game. The crowd was up with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Runners on first and second. Tying run there. Ended up losing, but it was a nice loss. Fireworks show was decent. Fireworks show. Fun time had by all on the 4th of July.
Okay.
Yeah, baseball might work down here. I would say this, as much as we criticize the Marlins and we say, oh, they just had an 8-game win streak and where's the crowd and all that stuff. I mean, worse off are the Braves and the Nationals. The Nationals, I don't think there was any expectations, but the Marlins are in 3rd in the NL East right now. They're not going to win the division, but there is a off chance that the wild card is interesting towards the end of the year. But man, the Braves are a disaster. I would hate to be the Braves or a Braves fan right now behind the Marlins with what they were supposed to be. The Braves are one of these teams that we were talking about 2-3 years ago, like, Braves are going to be around for a decade, and no one's going to compete with them. And because of injuries, and Ronald Acuna Jr. has been injured a number of times, but the Braves have dealt with a ton of injuries, and now the Marlins, who have a fraction, like a quarter of their payroll maybe, are ahead of them in the standings.
I would be worried for my job if I were Brian Snitker, because in MLB, the rule of thumb is they fire the manager and the GM if that team falls behind the Marlins in the NL East. That's the rule of thumb.
Well, the Nationals just did that.
Yeah, we just saw that. And
yeah,
again,
so
that's
I guess Braves are next on that
before
list.
The draft, before the draft, you've fallen behind the Marlins. We fired everybody.
Right. Yes.
Nationals are one of those teams like the Cavaliers, right? Where you're like, okay, how is it that they have so many number one picks every year?
MLB drafts during the day. Like, do you think if the Marlins and the Braves are playing at the same time as a draft, they can get fired during the draft?
Quite possibly. Right before the pick.
Jeremy, you know something about me, right? You know when I'm grilling outside and it's summertime, you know how I supplement my summertime?
Of course I do.
I make it Miller time.
Of course.
That beautiful white can. Oh, when it's so hot outside, I just put it right to my forehead, right there. And I just roll it sometimes, right on the forehead, cool my body down, and then I crack it open, instant relief, and then that first sip, brother, does that first sip?
That is a top 5 sequence of events that you can possibly go through.
I'm just serenity now when I just imagine that first sip of Miller Lite.
Just thinking about it's making me happy.
Dude, the sun is out, it's nice, you have your friends showing up. You got your family there. You just had your first sip of Miller Lite. And you know what? You're happy. You're blissful. You're fulfilled. I've been stocking my cooler with Miller Lite for 4 years, and for good reason. It's brewed for taste. Only 96 calories and 3.2 grams of carbs. This year, Miller Lite turns 50. That's 5 decades of cookouts, laughs, and ice-cold moments that never miss. It's the original light beer, and it's still my go-to. Miller Lite. Great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Cheers to 50 years of Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
What's up, guys? Tony here, and I wanted to talk about something super important, and that's how I keep my home protected. Obviously, you guys know I have a little one back at home. My wife is there with her, and I get tremendous peace of mind knowing that the moment I leave for work, that my home, my property, my family is protected, not just reactively, but proactively by Simply Safe. They are the number one for home security on the planet, on the market. There's nobody better than Simply Safe. I got the cameras going on. I got indoor cameras. I got outdoor cameras. I'm looking all over the place. Most security systems only take action after somebody breaks in, but you and I know that's too late, especially when you have a little one at home and when you have your wife at home and the big dog's not there, right? Simply Safe's new Active Guard outdoor protection helps stop break-ins before they happen. AI-powered cameras, live monitoring agents detect suspicious activity around the property. If somebody's lurking, agents talk to them in real time, turn on spotlights, and can call the police, proactively deterring crime before it starts. Everything's on the app. I want to see the cameras. Boom. I see who's walking their dog a little too close to my yard, maybe leaving some dog residue close to my yard. I can go on the microphone and say, buddy, clean up after your dog. Over 4 million Americans trust Simply Safe, and so do I. Simply Safe is offering Le Batard Show listeners 50% off a new system with professional monitoring. Plus, your first month is free. Visit simplysafe.com/DLB to claim this offer. That's simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Dan Le Batard.
My wife says this is a sexy voice.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm hard.
Thank you. Wow.
Stugotz.
So am I, actually. I don't know why.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Too many rounds in the MLB draft.
Yeah, it's the worst of the drafts by far. Well, I guess being drafted into war is worse, but MLB draft is the worst draft.
You're right. What are there, like 78 rounds?
I think at one time the baseball draft, and I'm not making this up. I heard this somewhere.
You can just keep picking.
No, I think at one point in time, and it can't still be the thing where the MLB draft just continued until every team was like, okay, we're good now.
Yeah.
Like it just kept going until the teams all agreed to stop drafting.
It's 20 rounds now. So they cut it down during COVID because they eliminated so many minor league teams from across minor league baseball. So now each farm system only has 4 teams. And so they've limited the amount of people that you can select. So it went back to 10 after being 5, and now it's only 20, which is totally reasonable considering how many minor league teams there are.
I want to do something with you guys here because we haven't had a chance to do very much of this in the local hour. Our friend and colleague Barry Jackson, who for many years I have said at the Miami Herald would be a number 1 pick. He would be a number 1 pick if we were drafting sports information people locally, although Andy Slater might be yelling and screaming that he wants in on that. But Barry Jackson has been a newsbreaker in this town for a long time. He doesn't usually delete his tweets. But there was a tweet deleted that read, "It would behoove the Heat to clear out roster spots soon. That is all."
I hate that so much.
I do too.
I hate it so much.
That implies he knows something.
Okay,
What's
so first of all, Barry Jackson unequivocally is the best reporter down here. Okay, let's put the cards on the table.
Well, let's put it on the table.
The best reporter out there.
Why are you making a face,
Greg,
Dad?
any dispute? Do you have any dispute of that?
Barry Jackson is a great reporter.
Really great.
I just don't like that kind of a tweet.
But for me, okay, and I'm interested if you agree with this, Greg, because we're two journalists who are on this show right now. So I'm interested if you agree with me. All right, that tweet right there is a reporter telling you, I know something you're not allowed to know yet.
Right.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
And that to me, it's like it's a dick move to me.
I don't know if I'd go that strongly, but my problem with something like that is that you're throwing something at a wall, hoping it sticks. If 2 days later the Heat do make a big move, Barry Jackson could look back at that tweet and go, yeah, like I reported.
No, that's what
2
he's
days
doing.
ago.
He wants to be able to be, see, I told you.
Right.
Why'd he delete it?
Probably because of responses like this.
You should ask him. I'll call him right now.
You're gonna.
No, I don't want.
Wow.
I don't want to embarrass him.
Okay, that's a great joke. If you're not going to execute it,
And it
like-
was a joke.
Why would it embarrass him?
I mean, everybody has his number. The show is able to call him right now.
I have his number.
Was that a spooky? What was that spooky hands you did
What
there?
are you doing?
The show is able to call him right now. I like doing that once in a while. It's a special effect.
You got a
when
nice-
I go like this.
Nice tan going, Greg.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Do I have the raccoon eyes? I feel like I do.
Nah.
I should put my glasses back on.
You
Yeah.
do, yeah. You've got. It is very clear that you've had things placed under your eyes that have, were you wearing sunglasses still? Is that what that is?
Well,
the
these
the
turn
residue of
yeah.
your sunburned face.
These turn into sunglasses when I'm in the sun. I spent a lot of time in the sun over the weekend in Key Largo, and it was a beautiful time had by all.
Just lean back a little further if you can.
Sorry.
Yeah, Ruth's Racoons, right?
Right, yeah. That's why we call a coonskin a unique nickname for a unique kid is a coonskin.
I don't like that word.
The idea that you guys are here, like honestly, that we're 30 minutes into the show and that both you and Billy have used some form of "and a good time was had by all." Like,
What was?
It was.
it's.
What better way to describe it?
I want to read something to you guys, but before we go here, because I want to get a ruling from Zaslow, who is a judge and a lawyer. Barry Jackson deleting that tweet, is that forgivable or is that not forgivable?
Barry Jackson put out a tweet claiming he knows things that you don't, the common person, normal, the poors, don't know. He knows. Unforgivable. Unforgivable! Unforgiven.
Okay, Barry Jackson's been called out. You have Barry Jackson also as the #1 seed all time on reporting locally, correct?
He and Andy Slater, I would say. But Barry, I would put #1.
All time?
No, locally.
No, I meant locally,
right
but
now.
all time.
Like right now.
Okay, right now. That's not
Yeah.
all time.
All time right now.
Yeah, all time right now. Best in show right now, like a horse, Barry.
How far back does all time go?
Wouldn't it be a dog? Best in show?
No, horses have that.
I'd like to read to you guys a sentence that I cannot get used to, and I'd like to ask all of you to give me what is the most absurd thing in this single sentence. I also want you to imagine me reading this sentence in like the year, I'm going to say, 2006. 5-star offensive tackle Felix Ojo, number 20 in the 2026 ESPN 300, committed to Texas Tech on Friday upon signing a historic 7-figure revenue share contract with the Red Raiders worth more than $5 million. His agent, Derek Shelby of Prestige Management, told ESPN. I want you to imagine me reading you that sentence 5 years ago, even 5 years ago. That one sentence of that, what is the most absurd thing in that sentence? Because I'm going to say that it's Texas Tech. My vote is, I've got Prestige Management, I've got his agent, I've got historic 7-figure revenue share contract, I've got committed to Texas Tech, I've got 5-star offensive tackle, number 20 in the ESPN 300. Not number 1, number 20.
#1 tackle, though, in fairness.
Those are important because the first 19 are probably quarterbacks.
Right.
Those are more important. But just the going rate on this stuff and how it is that you get into this game, you guys aren't yet numb to it, are you? Like when I read that single sentence to you, it's no longer strange in any way?
The revenue sharing is what sticks out to me there.
That is what sticks out to me as well, because in effect, you're starting to cut athletes in on ownership level income right now. You expect that when MLS and Inter Miami to get Lionel Messi gives him a piece of the club ownership, but you don't expect that when an 18-year-old offensive tackle coming out of high school is given revenue sharing. To me, that's groundbreaking.
It made me happy. Like, I just heard you read that, and I was excited about it because it means that players are going to end up getting a more equitable share of what they deserve. Like, the reality is like Tim Tebow should have made millions of dollars at UF just on jersey sales, and that's where revenue sharing comes in. Is part of that is going to be in the merch that's sold and things like that. So when a player is that popular nationwide, it's going to ultimately really help them, and especially regionally. So I think this is awesome to hear about.
I don't react with happy or awesome. I also don't react with anything at all negative. It's just sort of still shell-shocked about the fact that it's so different than it was 5 years ago. The beginning of the pandemic, this whole thing changed because USC was talking about forming a union. Or the players in a conference that no longer exists were threatening that they weren't going to play if they didn't get money. And then 4 years later, we're like, I am fascinated is what I am. I'm emotionally indifferent about it, but I can also, I guess, awe. I guess that can't be emotionless, right? Because I'm looking at it and I am not that far removed from Ta-Nehisi Coates writing in The Atlantic an article about reparations and an article about how it is that the NCAA was unjust. And at that time, 5 years before the revolution, I could not have imagined the single sentence I just read to you about the nowhere program Texas Tech.
I think forming a college players union, that's crazy to me. After 150 years of amateurism, forming a union and then getting an agent, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
I mean, everything has changed top to bottom in sports, in college sports especially. And you look back, I mean, Carl Yastrzemski was the first baseball player to make $100,000. Right? I mean, everything changes generation by generation. And so when Jeremy's referencing, imagine what Tim Tebow thinks, that he was one of the greats and he got nothing compared to what a rookie offensive tackle is getting.
He didn't get nothing, though.
He get nothing.
Well, but relative to today, he did. Right?
I mean, I guess, like, he didn't get paid while he was in school. That's what he didn't get.
Okay, and when he came in, nobody offered him a cut of the Florida Gators' revenue. You know, I mean, everything has changed fundamentally. It's just a crazy time we're living in. I don't begrudge the athletes for getting their share, but I also think it's to the detriment of the sport, because how can Texas Tech, beginning at the university level, not just the athletic program, how can they abide all of this? How can they continue to function when they're giving away revenue to players?
Well, you can't say that you have no feeling about it being negative and then say it's a detriment to the sport.
I think it's a detriment to the health of the sport. That's something the sport has to figure out.
So then you have a negative feeling about the athlete being paid if you think it's to the detriment of the sport. I don't agree with you that it's to the detriment of the sport. I think the sport is healthier than it's ever been, and there's more money to share than there's ever been. And I am super curious, once someone gets a Tebow, what's that worth?
Right.
Like, I am legitimately awed about how seismic the change is, but I am not reticent or opposed to the change, because anywhere you find growth, you will find change. So if I'm finding revenue growth, I'm going to find growth of all kinds everywhere. I don't see where and how it's a detriment to the sport. If Texas Tech can play in this game, then anyone can.
Right. If Texas Tech, though, is giving revenue sharing to the offensive tackle, What about the 5-star quarterback? What does he get?
But so what, though?
So what?
Why would you want to limit costs on that?
Here's so what, because if you're giving revenue sharing to your 10 biggest football players and your 5 biggest basketball players, what does that do to the tennis program and all the other sports on campus? There's a trickle effect that's going to hurt college sports. It's going to be great for some of the top-tier athletes. And don't make any mistake about this. This is only the top-tier athletes we're talking about. Okay, the third-string guard is getting an NIL deal from the Dairy Queen for free ice cream and $50 a month. He's not getting this revenue sharing. It's a top-heavy system right now that's going to trickle down and affect other sports.
Why wasn't it bad for sports last year or the year before that? Like, when are you announcing that it's bad for sports?
I'm just announcing that giving athletes revenue sharing is a whole different level of payment.
Well, it's just giving them some ownership. It's
Right.
it's the way the whole world is moving in terms of you can be your own brand, you can start your own thing on the internet, you can be an entrepreneur. It's business is all moving in this direction.
I agree, and it's good for the ones at the very top.
But it's good for everybody who gets money, right? More people are getting money than have ever gotten it,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, but 90% of them are getting what?
Okay, it's an imperfect system, but
Right.
it's better than it's been in terms of compensating them fairly, is it not?
It's better than it's been in the sense that all of a sudden, I think what began all of this, I think what tipped over the domino here was the star quarterback looking at his college coach getting $8-10 million or more per season, and the star quarterback who's winning the games is getting nothing. And he's looking at the TV contract. He's looking at how much money his school gets from being in a major bowl. And he's going, give me mine. And that's fair on the face of it. But the guy blocking for him on his offensive line is getting very, very little, relatively speaking.
I just told you he just got $5 million.
I know, but he's the exception. He's the 5-star, number 1 rated offensive tackle naturally.
Okay, but that's...
So nobody should get the money since the bottom guys aren't getting it? Like, I'm confused what you're arguing for here.
There's no equity right now. Okay, it's a top-heavy system that's enriching.
There's literal equity. There might not be equality. They're giving him equity in the revenue
You're
share.
Right. There's no equality.
I mean, isn't
in
that
the
life?
equity.
Like, in what job is there equity?
I mean, in every job, there's equity, right?
No, the people who are better make more money.
Okay, but if you have a union, you make a minimum amount. There's such thing as a minimum wage, right? The relative to the...
But wouldn't the minimum... I'm sorry to interrupt you, but wouldn't the minimum wage be you're on scholarship? That's the minimum wage.
Well, that used to be everything. And now the top players are getting revenue sharing and the bottom players are getting nothing.
But you're very worried about the bottom players who aren't getting anything while not sort of acknowledging that the top players are now getting something closer to their actual value.
Yes.
Which represents improvement and growth and isn't necessarily bad for anybody other than people who are lamenting that they want their old sis boom ba amateurism back.
Okay, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the idea that this offensive tackle is getting a cut now of the revenue of Texas Tech is a whole new level of payment that is going to have a negative trickle-down effect on the whole athletic program at a school, I believe.
But you can't prove that in any way, and you're just objecting to it on its face because it makes you uncomfortable.
I can't prove it in any way because we are right in the middle of it. Not even in the middle of it, we're right at the front of it. We are just beginning. All of this is unfolding. NIL was new a couple of years ago, and now revenue sharing is new. This is a groundbreaking story, I think, because of the revenue sharing aspect.
Would you not say, though, and I'll leave this after this because I know this is an age-old July argument, but would you not at least concede, if we're talking about equitable or we're talking about fairness, paying the tackle $5 million is more in line with whatever the athlete's worth is, what the value is, than whatever is the guy or the woman on the crew team that you're worried about right now.
Sure.
Neither of them are being paid
Right.
Neither of them are being paid their value necessarily, because in the case of a Tim Tebow, he's worth much more than whatever it is that you would pay him, just by virtue of being that size of the economy. But you would agree, right, that it's more fair now than it used to be on value, on just measuring the value of athletes, what they're worth.
Well, the football program and men's basketball programs have always carried college sports across the country, right? And the fairness comes in, and Title IX used to insist that if you had a men's golf team, you had to have a women's golf team, a good thing. Now Title IX is being systematically dismantled, and so what we're going to see is top-heavy. This is a prediction. I can't prove it's going to happen. We're going to see college programs really pared back. There's not going to be any crew teams. Maybe the tennis programs are going to be intramural now instead of varsity.
But isn't that sort of capitalism?
Yes. Yeah.
If I was on the crew team, I would just kind of put my hand up and be like, look, I don't deserve what the football team deserves.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, and maybe some of them are realistic enough to think that. I don't think they'd say it, but...
I mean, do you guys think that there's going to be a collective bargaining agreement sooner or later? Because it just seems like they're going to form a union and the school's going to talk to them, and boom, there you go. We got a legally binding contract here.
If anything, Greg, the concern that you have about this inequity, I would think this is actually a step in the right direction, right? Because if revenue sharing starts becoming a piece of this, that's when ultimately revenue sharing is dispersed to the entire team. So the issue that you have, which is, hey, these individuals are getting paid all this much, the people getting the major NIL deals that are separating themselves from the rest of the group, those are the people we're talking about who are like the individual content creators or things like that. When you're starting to deal with revenue sharing, you're talking about having stake in the company that you're working for, right? And it's mutually beneficial to both the company and yourself for that company to succeed. So if anything, this is a step in the direction toward what you want, which is making sure that everyone on the team is getting a piece. And in this scenario, it's a giant offer to get one individual guy.
Right.
But I would think that this is sort of the first step in a years-long process that might eventually lead us toward revenue sharing with every athlete in college football, because that's what ultimately happens in all of these professionalized leagues.
I would hope that you're right. I think it's a big leap to assume that's going to be the next step, because Texas Tech can afford to cut in this great offensive tackle, supposedly great offensive tackle. They can afford to cut him into revenue sharing. But there's 10 other players on that team who want their share right now because of what he got. And the star of the men's basketball team is going, what about us? And so's the number one player on the men's tennis team. There's going to be a demand for revenue sharing, and the revenue may not be there. I don't know how this is going to work. Maybe it's going to work at an Alabama, a Notre Dame. I don't know. How's it going to work at a Texas Tech? How's it going to work at a Florida Atlantic University?
Let them worry about that.
Okay, and they will, and they are. I would not want to be an athletic director right now in college sports, because it's turned into a complete nightmare, a thicket, a mangrove.
Hobbs and Shaw, 88% Rotten Tomatoes.
Low score.
Great
A thicket
flick.
and a mangrove?
Yeah, a mangrove. We were in the middle of mangroves in Key Largo, and it's a glorious thing, the mangroves.
The Major League Baseball draft, thank you. Here, let me just let me do this. Hold on.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes for adding nothing.
Adding nothing.
It's a glorious thing, the mangroves. Get out of here.
You know what?
Get out of here.
erosion.
Just get out of here.
Look up mangrove.
The Major
If you don't
League
think it's a
Baseball
glorious
draft
thing.
used to have an unlimited number of rounds. It would keep going until all 30 teams were done drafting. It once went 101 rounds in 1990. Almost 1,500 players were drafted.
Jeremy, you know something about me, right? You know when I'm grilling outside and it's summertime, you know how I supplement my summertime?
Of course I do.
I make it Miller time.
Of course.
That beautiful white can. Oh, when it's so hot outside, I just put it right to my forehead, right there. And I just roll it sometimes, right on the forehead, cool my body down, and then I crack it open, instant relief, and then that first sip, brother, does that first sip?
That is a top 5 sequence of events that you can possibly go through.
I'm just, serenity now. when I just imagine that first sip of Miller Lite.
Just thinking about it's making me happy.
Dude, the sun is out. It's nice. You have your friends showing up. You got your family there. You just had your first sip of Miller Lite. And you know what? You're happy. You're blissful. You're fulfilled. I've been stocking my cooler with Miller Lite for 4 years, and for good reason. It's brewed for taste. Only 96 calories and 3.2 grams of carbs. This year, Miller Lite turns 50. That is 5 decades of cookouts, laughs, and ice-cold moments that never miss. It's the original light beer, and it's still my go-to. Miller Lite. Great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Cheers to 50 years of Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.